I appreciate your decision to take the carriage, my prince. My old bones thank you. Yet, I urge you not to forget the lessons of your father. It is important that you walk the earth with your own 2 feet, especially your own kingdom. There is no other way to truly come to know the people of any given place, my prince, and how much more important is it to know the people of Tarantia? Ah, but we have arrived. The Argossi Quarter at last. Thank you, my prince. I am not as spry as I once was. Come, let us walk. It helps to keep the joints limber. And while we amble, I shall regale you with tales of Argos. You must continue your education, after all, if you are to come to rule well when you ascend to the throne. Argos is a land to our south, separated from our own border by a narrow strip of Zingaran territory, and one of the most favored destinations I had in my many travels. It is a land of law, order, and civilization not too dissimilar to our own. They worship Mitra in Argos, but the god of thieves, Bel, is also revered there. The land itself is temperate and fertile, watered by the Korotos River. In fact, the Korotos River Valley is one of the more fertile regions in Hyboria, my prince. We import large amounts of Argossi grain ourselves, and their exports are vital to most of the western continent. The capital of Argos is the fabled city of Mercantile, located at the river's mouth, but they have many other cities located along the coast. The welfare of the entire nation revolves around the ocean. Argos is a land of merchants, and they profit greatly off trade routes traversing the western sea. They are some of the best sailors in the world, truly rivaled only by their Zingaran neighbors. Indeed, the 2 nations maintain a fierce rivalry and have been at war many times, the most recent still within my living memory, my prince. King Fadrugo of Zingara invaded Argos before you were born, but he was defeated by King Milo in a great battle. King Milo still sits the throne of Argos to this day, ruling from Mercantile. Though he grows as old as my own esteemed personage. You would do well to remember this, my prince, as he or his heirs may one day make a powerful ally. But perhaps I get ahead of myself. What use is political knowledge without the context to apply it? We should start at the beginning. Argos was founded many thousands of years ago. Indeed, it may be one of the oldest of the Hyborian nations, maybe even as old as our own country. The land was first civilized under the hateful towers of wretched Acheron, but Hyborian bloodlines were introduced into the region as tribes of barbarians poured down out of the north to overthrow that fell empire. Shemite, Zingaran, and Hyborian peoples mingled together in Argos, melding their ways of life together into a new culture, one not too dissimilar from our own. They formed city-states and a landed nobility. The kingdom has stood independent since Acheron's fall, and exchange between Aquilonia and Argos has led to the proliferation of many aspects of Argossi culture in our own land. The love of Mitra is something both Argossi and Aquilonian alike share, as is our predilection towards ordered, clean cities ruled by the principles of law. Even our architecture is similar, though there are of course many important differences. The cities of Argos are mostly independent, each with their own local king or queen. However, each of these monarchs ostensibly swears fealty to High King Milo in Mercantile, Each city raises and maintains their own local forces, but the High King has complete control over the national navy, which serves only at the behest of Mercantile's throne. Argossi archers tend to be a cut above the rest, surely a link to their Shemite heritage, and they have some of the best marines in Hyboria. On land, the Argossi fight in disciplined phalanxes. That is an ordered formation of soldiers wielding long pikes laced through interlocking shields, my prince. These formations can be difficult, even for our famed knights to crack apart, but they can be slow and unwieldy on the battlefield. It then follows that Argos tends to follow a defensive strategy in war, using their armies to protect their homeland while their powerful navy strangles their foes at sea. Merchant families in Argos also employ their own kind of private soldiery, a class of mercenary citizens known as the condottieri. The condottieri are soldiers of fortune, warriors who fight for the highest bidder, and they are often utilized by the merchant princes to strike against their enemies without embroiling themselves in national politics. King Milo maintains good relations with many condottieri himself, and through them he manages to gain some leverage against the merchants. Perhaps something to remember, my prince. Our own coffers are vast, and those who fight for coin first can always be bought with a better offer. But what am I rambling about when I say merchant families, my prince? The Argossi have grown wealthy beyond imagination through controlling the world's oceanic trade routes, and the merchants who control this wealth have used it to form powerful familial units. Despite the authority of the royal bloodlines of Argos, the true power in the nation lies with these families, their vast, unending seas of money able to influence the nobility throughout the land. Indeed, even the High King is bound by Argossi law to protect the merchant fleets before all else, severely limiting their ability to command the navy on a whim. War is common between city-states, but trade will always supersede armed competition in Argos. The merchants will agree to nearly any price and negotiate to maintain nearly any status quo to keep their coffers flush with coin. Keep this in mind, my prince. Any dealings with the Argossi are sure to be backed or colored by interactions with the merchant class. You must come to know them well, innumerable though they may be, else your interactions with the Argossi will be doomed to failure. We share much with the Argossi in terms of culture. Like us, their cities are well-ordered and pre-planned. Like us, they have a high esteem for clean stonework and marbled aesthetic. And yet, there are many subtle differences between our two nations. Look there, my prince, and there. See the well-chiseled columns, the beautifully decorated tympanum of that temple. These are not Aquilonian designs, my son. Similar, yes, but see how the tops of their columns flare into swirling patterns. The style is called Ionic, after the Argosian architect who first designed it. You will notice the many oceanic motifs present in their friezes and frescoes. Everything in Argos harkens back to the sea. There, over that market stall, you can see a depiction of an Argossi trireme. Most have no fewer than 80 oarsmen and no less than 3 sails. With the wind at their backs under full steam, there are none that can outrun them on the waves. The sea is the foundation of Argos, and this fact is echoed in the nature of their capital, Mercantile. Mercantile is perhaps the richest port in all of Hyboria. The city is situated at a critical junction along the coast of the Western Sea and right upon the mouth of the Coratos River. Trade from all corners of the world flows through Mercantile, and you can be sure to find almost any kind of good or service within its boundaries. The city is built across several islands, which crown the Coratos like glittering jewels, and the river itself serves as a highway for travel throughout Mercantile. Ah, if words could only do justice to the beauty of the city, my prince. I am afraid no description will truly capture it, but I shall endeavor at least some small measure of that place's grandeur. Imagine, my son, flat, broad avenues cobbled in marble and granite. Imagine columned temples and red stucco rooftops, all surrounded by lush gardens and pregnant fruit trees. The climate is nearly always warm and sunny, and the very streets the people travel are mostly the azure waters of the Coratos. People throng the canals day and night, and the smells, my prince. I have not been to Argos since the heady days of my youth, and perhaps memory has failed me. Yet, I can still smell the spices for sale, the sizzling meats of 1,000 different peoples offered up to passerby at the hands of smiling merchants. Our own Argossi Quarter is but a pale imitation of the glory that is Mercantile's markets. That is not to say the city is perfect. There is a healthy population of thieves in Mercantile, and one would do well to mind one's coin purse when within the city limits. There are no walls around the Argossi capital, and indeed, there is little need for them. The islands of Mercantile are connected by beautiful marble bridges, which are rigged to be cast down during an attack, isolating the various parts of the city from one another. He who controls the river controls the city, and you can be sure the powerful Argossi navy is constantly patrolling such a vital artery. I must rest a moment, my prince. Please, forgive me. Just a moment to catch my breath. There we are. That is better. We can watch the people pass in the meantime. You know, my prince, your own father traveled to Argos once, before you were born. I am sure you have heard the stories about how he was once overthrown at the hands of that foul wizard, Xaltotun. Thrice cursed be his name. Your father was drawn to Mercantile in search of the key to that undead fiend's defeat, the fabled heart of Ahriman. He was nearly slain in the dank alleyways near the docks when he was ambushed by servants of Xaltotun. But he survived and found himself pressed into service aboard an Argossi galley. Your father was never one to let a little thing like servitude stop him, and he soon led a mutiny which overtook the vessel and allowed him to follow the heart of Ahriman to the black land of Stygia. But I do not do the tale justice, my prince. Ask your father about these events if you wish to learn more. For now, let us continue our walk. We should circle back to the carriage before my hips burst into flame. There are wonders in Argos, my prince, and I do hope that one day you will be able to travel the lands of Hyboria and see them. One in particular, however, stands quite literally above the rest, and is legendary across the world, from the steaming jungles of Kitai to the frozen wastes of Nordheim. I speak, of course, of the Colossus of Mercantile. The Colossus looms 100 meters tall, towering above the heart of the city, and upon his great shoulders he supports the prow of a ship crested in the breaking waves of the sea. Upon this foundation rests one of the most magnificent courtyards in Hyboria, and at one end of this courtyard sits the royal palace of the High King. The stonework of the Colossus is beyond compare, and the wealth of Argos is showcased by the shining spires that rest upon his shoulders. It is a sight to behold, my prince, a testament to what can be accomplished when civilized men focus their will and intention upon a singular task. Of course, the oceans of gold the Argossi could pour into the task certainly did not make the endeavor any more difficult. Ah, the carriage at last. You again have my thanks, my prince. Forgive me should I pass into slumber on our return journey. I have enjoyed this sojourn, but I grow weary. I hope you have learned something about the Argossi people, my boy. We will save any more lengthy lessons until the morrow. Perhaps we can pull your father away from affairs of state long enough to come with us to see the games. They will soon be upon us, and he does so enjoy the sport.